Hi, I'm Seán Finnan from the Limerick Post. Here are the top stories from the week. A number of TDs in the Dáil have yet again raised the issue of the mounting waiting lists in Irish hospitals. The TDs, led by Sinn Féin's David Connellan, has brought up the statistics of the people waiting for procedures and consultants in Irish hospitals. The 218,000 has been added to the hospital's waiting list in the past 18 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. 31,000 of those are new children, and over 44,000 of those are people that are deemed as outpatients, meaning that the consultants or the procedures could be done within the day. The TDs, led by David Connellan, called for an improved process of the centralised management referral system, but have already found their answer in the merger of two companies, Vito Software and Yellow Schedule, to create the company SmartList, which aims to improve the centralised referral system by making it an end-to-end process, meaning that practitioners and consultants can categorise their patients based on clinical needs in order to get the process more quickly. One of the CEOs in the merger, CEO of Yellow Schedule's Martina Skelly, echoed one of the reasons gave by David Connellan as to why the waiting lists have gone up in the past 18 months. The reason is the COVID pandemic. But she also brought up that the cyber attack on the HSE all in the year also caused a backlog of waiting lists, and said that the new merger said that the most pessimistic and conservative aims in the reducing of the waiting list has it as 25% minimum and can only go up from there. And it may not be much, but it's certainly more of a light at the end of the tunnel than the darkness the hospitals were currently in. In other news, the US travel ban on the European Union has now been lifted for vaccinated people, meaning that Irish vaccinated people can now travel from the US to and from as they please from November onwards, given they show their contact tracing details, official documents and a negative COVID test 3 days prior to boarding. This can only be a boost to the Irish aviation industry and Shannon in particular, as now one of the biggest markets is back online. In other Shannon Airport news, after over a year trying to find a replacement chairman of the board for the Shannon Group, and after multiple TDs and numerous county councils pushed and stressed the importance of the role in the post-pandemic period, Minister for Transport has now administered a new chairman of the board for the Shannon Group, that of former Senator Pádraig Céadric. The Connemara native, UCG graduate and Harvard alumni Pádraig Céadric was picked for the role after his 26 years experience in airline management. He stressed the importance of the position that they have that supports hundreds of thousands of people in their businesses and supports their livelihoods. And lastly, a spokesperson for the families affected by the Mica-Pyrite scandal has said the politicians that do not back the call for full financial support for these families will face the consequences in the upcoming election, as they polled the families in the most affected county, Donegal, said that over 80% of the families affected will say they will have a huge bearing on who they vote for based on who supports their call for full financial support. The spokesperson called for 100% financial redress from the Irish government and not to propose 90% and later 10% from the Irish taxpayer, and said even on the promises that they don't like, including the 10% from the Irish taxpayer, it's hard to believe that promise after more than 11 years of false promises and assurances that this will be sorted. The spokesperson concluded by saying that 13 out of the 15 TDs that represent the counties with the most affected families have said that they want to see 100% redress for these families and not the proposed 90% by the government. The only two TDs the spokesperson said that haven't clearly backed it so far is Brian Ledden and Patrick O'Donovan. But Patrick O'Donovan responded to this by saying he already met with Minister for Housing Dara Brian and said that he wants to see this finalised and see the redress brought through. It is unclear, however, how much of the redress he actually wants to be brought through, whether it's 90% or the 100%. I've been Seán Finnan from the Limerick Post. Those have been the top stories from the week. Have a good afternoon, evening or night.